I have a global community here on my Bourbon Bougie platform because once women saw that I share the global experiences of other women, I have other women jumping into my inbox wanting to talk. This woman says, since I saw that you talk about other countries after what happened with the women in Afghanistan, I wanted to share with you what is happening in my country of Venezuela. So I say, send me what you want me to know. And she says, thank you. She says, recently, everything got worse after the presidential election on July 28th. We know Maduro lost the election. Now the government is persecuting everyone that speaks about it on social media. And recently, the opposition campaign leader called Maria Oropeza was kidnapped on her house, or I guess from her house, by the military, and she streamed on Instagram Live. The government calls it Operation Knock Knock or Operation Tum Tum. They just show up masked and without any kind of order or document and kidnap people from their house. Now, this woman is sending me these things because she knows that if you're a Venezuelan, you could be prosecuted or somebody could show up masked and just take you. She says the military decided to use Maria Oropeza's video and turned it into a fear tactic on Instagram. They used Freddy Krueger's song in Spanish on top of her video and later showed her arriving at the Heliosoide. Please forgive me, I don't know if I pronounced that right, on a helicopter and later behind a badly photoshopped prison cell. She gives me an article right here. I'm going to show you some of that article. She says, I wanted to write you because most of our relevant politicians and leaders are women. Venezuela is very matriarchal, but we are being persecuted. I can speak because I'm outside of the country, but I know others have received threats on social media and are prosecuting the families. Everyone is afraid. So this woman is safe in another country, which I will not mention, but she did want me to say that there is a fear of terror in her country right now. Now, I know that if you are here in America, you see all of these migrants coming. You're wondering when the migrants are going to stop, but there is a reason why all of these people are walking hundreds of miles. It's not simply because they want some exercise, they want a change in scenery. No, millions have left Venezuela due to a combination of political, economic, and humanitarian factors. Economic collapse. Venezuela has experienced a devastating economic crisis with high inflation, shortages of food, medicine, and electricity, and widespread poverty. Venezuela has faced political turmoil, a democratic breakdown, and repression. And Venezuela has experienced systematic violations of civil and political rights and massive economic and social rights violations. Some of this could have been orchestrated by our own government and how we go in and push the buttons on who should be a leader in some of these countries. I will not act like America does not go into other countries and destabilize them and put in puppet leaders. I'm not going to act like that because I know the history of the United States and our government. The hyperlink that the woman sent me took me to this Twitter page saying we have to be louder about Venezuela. And this article right here is talking about what is going on in Venezuela. It is a long article. I'm not going to do the whole thing. If you are interested in seeing the whole thing, it's called State of Terror, Life After Venezuela's Electoral Uprising. Massive deployment of police, state, armed collectivos, and informants seeks to obliterate the social capital and hope created throughout the campaign and the electoral victory of July 28th. Tell me if anything happens, please. This cannot stand, Clara wrote as she woke up to find the streets deserted. An unbearable quiet settled over La Dolorita in southern Pater on the morning of Monday, July 29th. No one in the barrio could believe Nicolás Maduro's victory, which Elvis Amarosa, president of the Electoral Board, CNE, had announced as irreversible. Irreversible with just 20% of the voting tallies pending to be counted. By noon, fireworks and gunshots mingled with the clatter of banging pots and pans. Distrito capital and low-income communities in Caracas while the opposition worked together voting tallies to prove that the announced victory of Maduro was a fraud. Multitudes took to the streets claiming the triumph of Edmundo Gonzalez Urrutia as their own. So this is the opposition party that is trying to continue with the tallies, and they're doing that. But Maduro and his crew are celebrating a win. The uprising, massive, spontaneous, and simultaneous spread from areas like Pater, Katia, El Valle, and Minas de Baruto to the middle-class neighborhoods. On social media, video shows crowds reaching places like O'Leary Square near Miraflores Palace, something unseen since the events of April 2002. Things are getting scary, Clara wrote then as she walked down to the city with her neighbors from San Blas de Pater. I'm praying to God for this to end, hoping there won't be a massacre. Hundreds of people surrounded the Supreme Court, the Chief Prosecutor's Office, and the police line guarding Miraflores Palace. Over the horizon, as demonstrators and anti-riot soldiers began exchanging tear gas canisters and stones, smoke covered the White Palace, which is part of the Miraflores presidential complex. In a voice message to the ruling party leadership, Maduro summoned PSUV militants and his remaining supporters to defend his rule, coordinate with the National Police, the PNB, and Guard, GNB, to restore order. We have to grab this by the head, act immediately. Every little fire that starts must be extinguished. So I'm skipping somewhat. I'm skipping down to colectivos and snitching networks. It says, in just a few hours, government violence redrew the heat map in parts of Caracas that roared on July 29th. When night comes, we all need to be home. In Patir and here in Katia, because of colectivos, Luisa told Caracas Chronicles, we can go out, but by 6 p.m., we must be indoors because they aren't accountable and can unalive anyone on the spot. Like paramilitary forces fighting a hybrid war, colectivos work as PSUV's fist in the areas where the Chavista state holds more economic and social power over a population now turning its back on them. Their priority is to defend their government sponsors at pew pew point. The offensive reached the doors of those who took to the streets the Monday after the presidential election. A video that day shows a man on a bike recording himself while chasing demonstrators, saying to the camera, here we are, prepared to defend peace and our principles. We want peace, but we are prepared for war. In Venezuela, it was our president, Nicolás Maduro, who won. So this is a person that is snitching on folks. Listen to this part. On Tuesday, the 30th, in a very densely populated and formerly very Chavista, and that the Chavista goes for Hugo Chavez. That's what Chavista is. PNB detained 4 boys, 3 of them teenagers, who were banging pots on the 8th floor of a building. Caracas Chronicles obtained voice notes sent by leaders in communal councils in Distrito Capital. In one of them, a woman hoped that someone would pew pew the escuadillos, a classic Chavista hate speech for opposition folks. So they are coming for anybody that was celebrating the opposition overthrowing the Chavistas. At the bottom says, at least I saw colectivos giving them hell. If they catch anyone, they will make pulp out of him, and they are hiding between our buildings. I'm skipping some more. Down to knock knock, the police are home. At 9 p.m. on August 6th, Maria Oropeza was arbitrarily detained from her home by the DGCIM, the Military Intelligence Corps, deeply involved in the atrocities under investigation by NGOs and international institutions. They are entering my house. They don't have any search warrants. They are destroying my door. I asked for help. I didn't do anything wrong. I am not a criminal. I am only a citizen who wants a different country, she said in a live video she managed to record while officials were breaking into her property. 1 minute later, the screen went black. Maria was the leader of the campaign for Edmundo Gonzalez. She was working with the opposition party to overthrow the Chavista regime. After a week of failed attempts to bring charges against her, the DGCIM handed her to the prison system, which kept her in an overcrowded, inhumane, maximum security prison. Her legal status has not yet been determined. Last week, late at night, the DGCIM posted a reel on their Instagram account announcing their new campaign and security operation, Operacion Tuntun, with the hashtag. Well, you can see that. I don't know Spanish. It says in the background, a song played, "Children, take care. Please be aware. All that you've done will come to bear. They knock on your door, and if you don't open it, they will destroy it," said a neighbor from Quinta Questro, Caracas. Please forgive the mispronunciations. I am just trying to get the word out of what is going on in Venezuela for people that are not safe to really talk about it, because this is what happens. This is a supposed free and fair election that some people want to act like, but this is part of the political unrest that is pushing people out of their homes and into the sanctuaries of other countries. The Chavistas, their enforcers, and their snitches are keeping a heavy rule on anybody that wants to speak out. So if you can go to this person's Twitter page. You can share what they are going through, just to keep the word going so that their voices can be amplified even when they can't speak. All right, join the conversation. Let me know what you think about this. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. I came across this video, or I was tagged in this video a couple of weeks ago from this woman, this young woman who happens to be from Venezuela. And she's doing a really good job giving a story time that explains what is going on in Venezuela. And I think that it would be a good idea to listen to her background, considering her family is from there. So please go ahead and check out this young woman.
Let me tell you a story of my beautiful home country. So I was born in Valencia, Venezuela, Valenciana, you know? My mom has like 8 siblings. My dad has like 15. Huge family. My earliest memories were always at my grandma's house. My grandma's house was like the epicenter of everything. Parties, Christmases, sleepovers, everything happened at grandma's house. Life was good, life was great. I thought everything was going fine and dandy. And then when I turned 5, we moved to Canada. And I said, wait a minute. This was around 2005, right? Let's backtrack a little bit to before I was born. I think it was 1998 that Chavez won as president. From the moment, honestly, that president won, things were going downhill. The economy was going down the drain. Everything was getting a little bit more dangerous. People's families were being separated because slowly and surely people started to leave Venezuela. My family, so like mom, dad, brother, were one of the first to leave. Like once upon a time, my family lived in Venezuela happy. And then 20 years later, we're in Australia, Chile, Ecuador, Spain, the US, Canada. That's just my family. In the past 20 years, 8 million Venezuelans have left in search for better opportunities, for a better life. Our currency started to be so devalued that they kept adding zeros to it. And then that over the past, let's say 20 years, had been devalued so much that now Venezuelans use US dollars. Let's say allegedly someone makes $200 a month as income. And let's say this person allegedly also has high blood pressure, but the high blood pressure medication is between like $80 to $100 a month. So you're saying half your income goes to your medication, and then the other half of your income has to go to rent, food, water, electricity, buying new clothes, having that money to go out with your friends and family, and savings. Not realistic. Medicine, a whole other topic. Either it can be really expensive or there's none. So someone can have a small infection, there's no antibiotics, so the infection spreads, put 2 and 2 together, there's no antibiotics, what happens to that person? So all these things have been happening. It has been stemming from the party that has been ruling the country. In my lifetime, I've spent more time out of my home country than in my home country. Obviously there has been elections since our first president won. He got reelected, I think in like 2008 or something, I don't know. And then that president passed away. And then the person that got reelected, same party, continued in power and has been in power since, I think it was like 2013. The votes and the truth and what the people have been voting for is not what they announce and who continues to be president in the country. And then you fast forward a couple days ago, you have another election. So there's party A who has been in power for the past 20 so years. And then there's party B in this election. The face of the campaign of party B, her name is Maria. But due to Party A's rules, regulation, not allowing for Party B to run, Maria couldn't put her name on the ballot. So whose name's on the ballot? His name is El Mundo. So Party B is like a 2-person collab. We love them. Maria is the face of it and Mundo's on the ballot, but they work together. Party B holds the hope of all those that fled, all those that are still there, and the hope of the future. I'm trying to keep it short, but there's so many details. Leading up to the election that we just had, they're shy of 8 million or maybe 8 million Venezuelans outside of Venezuela. From the 8 million, 5 million are eligible to vote. From the 5 million, only 70,000, less than 2% of the eligible voters were able to vote due to rules and regulation placed by the current party that has been ruling for the past 20 years. So some people were unregistered to vote, which is what actually happened to my dad. He was like, yeah, so I was registered to vote. So when he went to prepare to vote this election, he was unregistered. So people are being unregistered to vote. People day of showing up to the polls to go to vote, and under their profile, country resident got switched, so now they have to go to Venezuela to vote. You show up to the poll day of and you're finding out you can't vote. It goes from 5 million eligible voters to 70,000 eligible voters due to the rules and regulations that Party A, that has been ruling for so long, put in place. To do what? To our voices. And you know, when there's an election, they usually have polls to kind of see like which way the public is swaying. 70% of people were voting for our homies, right? And 30% of people are voting for the people that have been in power for so long. But remember how I told you in the past, the truth has not been kept up with. Results show one thing and they announce another. What they announce is a party that stays in power, that has been in power for 20 or so odd years. Fast forward to 2-3 days ago, election day is here. A day full of anxiety. Everyone is gathering around the world, kind of like to show like their support internationally, even though most of these people that are gathered internationally were not able to vote. After polls close in our country, people can volunteer to go into the poll sites to witness the count, to make sure what they're counting and what they reported is the actual numbers. So some sites are not letting anyone in. Red flag. Other sites are letting people in. And slowly but surely, we start to see on social media the announcements per states. We're seeing that the pre-election polls are matching the true votes as you're hearing the results come through. But the results aren't official until the Electoral College, which is the CNE, announces it. Which is the video that you saw when they announced that by 51%, the party that has been ruling for the past 20 years has once again won. Even though the numbers suggest otherwise. When the CNE announces, it's kind of weird. They announce the winner, but not all the votes have been tallied. Like they'll continue to count after, but they announce a winner, which I don't understand why that works that way. Fast forward to a day later or like 2 days later, the official results come out on who won the election, even though it has already been announced who will be president. So according to the results, 7 million people voted for our homies and about 2-3 million voted for the party that has been ruling this whole time. Yet who's the president? The party that has been ruling this whole time. You see how that's an issue. So countries are starting to get involved, be like, yo, you gotta listen to what the people want. We don't know what's gonna happen next. I don't know what's gonna happen next. Maria, homegirl, she's doing a phenom job, keeping us updated, letting us know like kind of what the next steps are, so the people can finally get what they deserve. No one can ever return. Don't get emotional, girl. No one can ever give us back the missed Christmases, the missed birthdays. Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. The missed family time, the missed sleepovers. Don't cry, don't cry, that I have missed, and all these other people have missed, all these 8 million people that left. No one's ever going to return that we have all missed over the span of the last 20 years. We can never get that back. We can never. Oh, don't get emotional. Okay, keep it up, keep it up. We can never get that back. But what we want to take the steps to rebuild everything that was broken, and that starts with honoring who won the election. That's not only the story of my beautiful country, that's my story, that's a lot of our stories. So yeah, I try to keep it short, but I'm a yapper. Let's keep the comments nice. If you're mean, I will block you.